Ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first day is Palm Sunday, and you're looking through the perspective of the Jews, and I have these pictures for you to look at.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome to Passion Week. We know that on Palm Sunday that lots and lots of people were there to witness Jesus entering on the donkey. And they were like waving palm branches and stuff. Well, those people were there because of the Passover. It was the week of the Passover, meaning that every Jew was in Jerusalem preparing to celebrate it.
Is that a problem?
No. It was, yes, so all the Jews were in Jerusalem ready to celebrate the Passover. And so this means that you have all the zealots who are really ambitious and like to start fights. And they're there for the Passover, drinking a ton of wine, all hanging out in the same place. So I'm sure you can understand why this made the Romans a little nervous, because they didn't want any riots and stuff like that. And there's been trouble before, past years around the Passover. So they have all their armies in Jerusalem ready to be moved in if riot breaks out, the zealots are doing anything silly.
Gotcha.
So this also sets the Jewish leaders on edge because they're worried about the riots also, because if there's riots in town, that means that the Romans will take their power away, that the army will have to step in. So everyone's kind of on edge because all the Jews are like drinking wine and getting ready to celebrate the Passover. So they're all kind of in a hype mood. The Romans are nervous because they don't want anything bad to break out, and the Jewish leaders are nervous as well. So on Palm Sunday, it was lamb selection day, which meant that everyone was choosing their lambs for their sacrifices. So if you were to pick a lamb to sacrifice to God, you'd probably pick something strong and not very wimpy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't want to offer something like weak or has a disease to the Lord. And this kind of relates with the fact that the Jews were all waiting for the Messiah to come, and they thought that he was going to be strong war leader, and that he was going to take them out of the Romans' hold through war. In reality, that's not what happened, and their Messiah came into town riding on a donkey and weeping, which is not the image they really put with their Messiah. But it was a fulfillment of the prophecy in Zechariah 9:9, which says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, daughter of Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and having salvation, gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." So, yes,
Okay.
Palm Sunday.
Great.
And so the next day is Good Friday. And for this one, we're going to be kind of looking through the eyes of Jesus in our activity. And I'm going to ask you to put your arms above your head like this as I read it.
Okay.
Okay, so Good Friday is pretty oddly named because on this day, many things happened to Jesus that none of us would really consider good. The people that he had been traveling with and teaching had disobeyed him in the garden. That's cheating.
It is, yes.
Disappointed in you. So they disobeyed him in the garden, and one of them had even handed him over to the chief priests who wanted him dead. And to do that, they had to find a good reason for him to die, because really, other than like disobeying the Sabbath and stuff like that, there was no good reason. So they took him to this council. They asked him, "Are you the Messiah?" And so he answers yes, and then they charge him with blasphemy. So they know that they have a good reason to execute Jesus, but Jews were not legally able to execute people without the permission of the Romans since they were under their rule. So they had to find other reasons to get Jesus arrested. So that's when they took Jesus to Pilate, and they said stuff like he opposes to pay taxes and to Caesar, and he claims that he is the king instead of Caesar. That's what they told Pilate, and Pilate wasn't so sure about that. He couldn't really find anything wrong, but Herod, who was king at the time, wanted to talk with Jesus. So Jesus got sent over there to talk to Herod, but he didn't say anything to any of the questions that Herod asked him, so he was sent back to Pilate. And while that whole thing was happening, the Jewish leaders were spreading the blasphemy rumor along with around to all the Jews so that they would be angry about Jesus. And so that's why when Jesus came back, they wanted to execute Jesus. So Pilate was scared about being mobbed, because all the Jews were like having a riot, wanted Jesus to die. So in fear of his life, he decided just to send Jesus to die. And so, yeah, they sent him off to be crucified. And that is one of the worst ways that you can die, because when you're not like pulling up on your arms, then it cuts off your windpipe and you're not able to breathe. But if you pull up on your arms, then you have the excruciating pain in your arms.
Right.
So either way, you're in pain, and it's a lose situation. By this time, your arms should start to hurt from holding them up so long.
Mine hurt a while ago.
Yeah, that's the point. So you can put them back down. And that was just trying to get you a little glimpse into what Jesus went through, even though it's not very comparable to the pain he went through.
Right.
So the last day is Easter Sunday. And for this, I have this thing, which is kind of an air freshener and kind of exploded a little bit. So sorry about that.
I can smell it.
Yeah, so if you want to smell that, that'd be good. It was super strong when I got it, and it's still fairly strong, not as much. But yes, the last day of Passion Week is Easter Sunday. And on it, Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mom of James and John, and another Mary, who's not really specified, go to visit the tomb with spices. And they do that because they want to prepare Jesus' body and, reduce the odor a little bit. But instead, what they found was an empty, unguarded tomb. And that was really shocking, as it should be, because once you're dead, you normally stay dead.
Yeah.
But they were shocked, even though Jesus himself predicted that he would rise again in Luke 9:21, which says, "It is necessary that Son of Man proceed to an ordeal of suffering, be tried and found guilty by religious leaders, high priests, and religious scholars, be killed, and on the third day be raised up alive." So he said that not too far before his death. And as the gang of Marys were going to tell other people about what they had seen at the tomb, Jesus himself came to them, and he told them to go and tell the disciples that he was alive. And that's pretty strange, that Jesus would go tell a bunch of women first about the fact that he was resurrected, because in that society, women were at the bottom of the social group, and they weren't really worth anything, or they weren't a big deal. And so that was one of the final ways that Jesus showed his idea of an upside-down kingdom, when he comes for the least just as much as he comes for the people with the high status. Then this whole ordeal caused catastrophe, which is pretty much the exact opposite of catastrophe. So it's pretty much the undo of deep pain, and instead deep joy replaces it.
Okay.
And so I'm sure if you imagine like one of us dying and then coming back to life, you'd feel extreme joy, almost too much to bear. And so that's kind of what they were going through, and what Jesus still causes like us as our emotions today, because he's still coming back for us to help us. Yeah,
Nice.
that's it.